long, but it goes through all of the seasons that bears slept through. He went to sleep in winter, he slept through spring, summer, fall. You know, it goes through all of them. He's thinking, as he's asleep, he's dreaming about the different seasons. So what you could do is you could pair up children to make murals of the different seasons or to illustrate them. One thing that we're going to be doing is I'm gathering clip art of different clothing items, and the children are going to sort. Would you wear this in winter, summer, spring, or fall? You know, what activities can you do in the summer? What activities do you do in the winter? Then I'm really excited this year. We're going to have Hibernation Day. So at the very end of our author study, around the end of November, instead of just having Pajama Day, we've now changed it to Hibernation Day, where the kids are going to wear their pajamas to school. And we're going to do all of our Old Bear extension activities, which include reading all about bears. We're going to make a question list of bears, and I've already started pulling resources, Time for Kid magazines about bears, National Geographic magazines about bears, library books about bears. And each group is going to come up with 3 facts about bears. We're going to share them, and we're going to study the seasons and bears all on Hibernation Day in our pajamas. So really excited about this one. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this book was written in 2008, and it was the School Library Journal's Best Book Award and New York Public Library's 100 Titles for Reading and Sharing. And it was also an ALA Notable Children's Book. One of my favorite Kevin Hinckus book is Kitten's First Full Moon. It's a 2005 Caldecott Medal winner. This one correlates so well with our science standard, just like Old Bear did. Science standard number 10 for kindergarten states, identify objects observed in the sky with the unaided eye, including the sun, clouds, moon, and rainbows. So in this book, Kitten sees a full moon. And we talked about how in this book it's a full moon, but the moon does not always look that way. So for homework one week, I gave each student a moon journal, and their job was to track what the moon looked like every night of the week. Since they're in kindergarten, I gave them a journal, and their job was to draw a picture of the moon. So we would come back and we would discuss their drawings. What did they notice about the moon that night? And that led us into a discussion about quarter moons and half moons and crescent moons. And then as more extension activities, you know, a lot of my students, they're pretty familiar with the sun, but they don't know much about the moon. So we talked about, what is the moon? Why is it important? What does the moon do? And how does it change shapes? My students were fascinated that the moon was changing shapes in the sky. They had no idea anything about the moon, so they thought the moon was actually moving every night for different shapes. So this was a great book to learn about science and the moon, which covers our state standards perfectly. Another book that I love is Chrysanthemum, and I know that we're probably all familiar with Chrysanthemum. It was written in 1991, and it was a Library of Congress's Best Book of the Year, an ALA Notable Children's Book, and a School Library Journal Best Book. I love this book and do so many extensions with this book. First of all, we do a name study with Chrysanthemum. I send home a letter to the parents, and their job is to help their child learn about their name. Why did they choose that name for their child? What does it mean? Does it have a family connection? We get back and we share all those, and it's really neat to see where everybody's name came from. A lot of them do have family connections, so it's fun to talk about grandparents and aunts and uncles. This year, I had my children make a name mobile. I die-cutted all the letters for everybody's name, and they glued them in order, and so their name mobiles are hanging across the room. I also gave everybody a large cutout of the first letter of their name and let them decorate it any way they wanted to. So we talked about the students are unique, their names are unique, and the way they decorated the first letter of their name is also unique. We talked about how many letters are in their names. We made a Unifix tower. So my name is Laura, so I modeled for them, and I had 5 Q's in my tower, L-A-U-R-A. Then we compared whose name is the longest, the shortest, do we have any that are equal, and we took our cube towers and then we graphed them on a piece of paper, whose name is the longest, whose name is the shortest. And also another great idea was You know, you can bring in a real chrysanthemum, the flower, and talk about the needs of living things. Or you can plant a chrysanthemum and watch it grow. So this is a great book with lots of extension activities. Oh, and I wanted to show you one more thing. I know you can't see this very well, but it's a text-to-text connections. We read Chrysanthemum, and we also read Owen. And my student, their text-to-text connection is, here's a picture of Chrysanthemum with her friend saying ha ha, and here's Owen with a sad face with a yellow square that represents the blanket. And so we talked about, how do you make text-to-text connections? What is a text-to-text connection? And she said, both books had mice. She drew and I dictated what she wrote. Owen and Chrysanthemum were both sad. Owen was sad he had to get rid of his blanket, and Chrysanthemum was sad when people made fun of her name. And I was so impressed by this 5-year-old's ability to understand that both of these mice were sad. They were sad for different reasons, but they had the same emotion. So we've done a lot of making text-to-text connections between the Kevin Hinckus book. So I'll go ahead and talk about Owen really quickly. This was written in 1993, and it was a Caldecott Honor Book. It was an honor book in 1994. It was the book list editor's choice for 1993. One thing I really did this year that I loved was I gave everybody a piece of yellow felt. It wasn't very big, just a little square, and they got to decorate it. It was their blanket. So they decorated their blanket, and they took that home, and their homework for that night was to retell the story of Owen. And having that visual cue and that, concrete fabric was a great reminder of what the story was about. So they took their yellow fabric home, they retold their story, and their parents were just to jot down 1 or 2 things the kids told them about the story Owen. And the responses I got back from the parents were, cute idea, love this idea, my child knew so much about this story. And it was really apparent from reading what the parents wrote down that their child said that the children really did understand and identify with this book. I also asked them to bring a special item to school. I said, when you first came to kindergarten 67 days ago, what were you sad about leaving at home? Was there anything that, you were going to miss? And of course they all said yes, and we had everything from Batman Legos coming in to Barbies to American Girl dolls, and one student wanted to bring her mom in because she said she really missed her mom. So this is a great book to make text-to-self connections with young kids because they can all identify, they all have that special object that is so important to them. This book is one of Kevin Hinckus' newer books. It's called My Garden. It was written in 2010, and I love this book because in kindergarten we do a big study about living things, and so obviously things that grow in a garden are living things. So you can talk about, what do living things need to survive? Have you ever been in a garden? And I love this book because I'm just going to try to show you a few pictures. It says, in my garden, the flowers could change color just by my thinking about it. Pink, blue, green, purple, even patterns. So we can make patterns in math. We can draw flowers and make patterns. And this girl is imagining a garden where she has lots of different things. She said, if I planted a jelly bean tree, jelly beans would grow. She says, in my garden, there would be no weeds, just chocolate bunnies. So you can make a fun class book about what would be in your garden. Use your imagination. So this book lends itself to the factual living things, like what do living things need, and it also allows students to use some creative writing. What do you want in your garden? Why would you want that in your garden? And what could you do with it? And I have done so many extensions with all of these books on my table, but I'm running out of time. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're as excited as I am about Kevin Hinckus and author studies in general. And I think I've enjoyed it so much. My next task is to do an author study on Patricia Polacco for the month of December in my kindergarten class. Thank you so much for watching.